Welcome back, YouTube. So this is going to be slightly different from everything I've done so far. How do you repair a book? Now, you think that's not a woodworking question. That's more a question for a bibliophile. Well, I happen to be both. I enjoy reading old books, collecting them, especially when I can get them for free or cheap. They give you a good insight into your past. And this one, The Existential Pleasures of Engineering by Samuel C. Florman. It is an old book. Let's see, copyright 1968. So, it's an old book, and beyond that, it's much worse for wear. Now, this is a woodworking question as much as it is for bibliophiles. So I will show you how to repair the spine on this and get the pages still attached. Never done this before, so let's see how it goes. Alright, so there's only three things you really need to make this happen. You need some wood glue. Really, any type does the trick. You need some sort of a scraper. And you need a couple clamps. And this is kind of why it works into a woodworking project. The first thing to do is to make sure all your pages are in order. So, I mean, once you glue this, it's going to be glued for a long time. If not permanently re-glued. So, now that all the pages are in order, the easiest place to start is the binding itself. Take your object, whatever you're going to scrape with. You want to just scrape all the old glue off. And the way I'm doing this is I'm keeping the blade slightly angled acutely and scraping backwards. Now if you notice, the cutting edge of the blade goes this way. So I'm just using the very back side of the blade as a straight edge. Alright. Oh, one more small tool. A little strip of sandpaper. Once all the glue's cleaned off, just take a piece of sandpaper and rough up the edge. The idea is so you get a porous surface for the glue to impregnate and glue to. Because even though you scrape the surface flat, there's still a slight seal on the wood fibers. And you're going to want to do the same thing for this surface. To keep everything in order, I'm just going to use a couple clamps. Just to keep all the pages even. And it's pretty much the same process. You just take your straight edge, and scrape off all the old glue. Now I learned this process from a teacher of mine back in high school. Unfortunately, I can't remember his name to save the life of me. He was one of my math teachers, and he really did inspire me. Now, you see the edges here? I want to get those too. He inspired me to start making things at a much more fevered pace than I already had been. He also was one of the teachers that endeared me to a love of teaching itself as a profession. And when I get older, I would like to follow in his footsteps and not be a math teacher, but become a teacher in general. Move that out of the way, just so I can get to that. Now again, just take your time with this. It's not all that difficult. It's just you want to get it right the first chance, because you really don't get a second try. And once you got as much glue as you could remove, because there will still be some between the sheets that you'll just never be able to get out. Take your piece of sandpaper again and sand the surface. Now this doesn't work for every book, and this is not an end-all be-all process. So don't go using this on your rare and valuable books. But these other books, the slightly cheaper ones, old textbooks, this is more than sufficient. Sandpaper does get clogged up pretty quickly though. Okay, and if you look, we have a nice even edge with no glue on it. Now, you never want to glue right to the surface this way. You want to run your glue on here. And you want to use a very sparing amount. Just a little bit. Actually, I'm just going to put just a hair on, the back of these itself. Just a little itty bitty bit. See, I'm just putting it a little bit on my finger and rubbing it in. You kind of have to treat paper like every surface is in grain. Because every surface will soak up any glue you put on it, but you just want a tiny, tiny amount. Now make sure that you know what your front is. When you do this, you want to be very careful to line up your edges. Once everything is back together, clamp it up. Now, he would always use just a series of big, thick books to clamp it. But since I do have access to all these little clamps and everything, why not, right? See, there's a problem right there. To adjust that. And now I'll be able to clamp it much better. Don't want to clamp it too tight, but you don't want it loose either. So I'm going to let this sit for a half hour. Now that everything's nice and clamped, the glue's setting and drying, and we'll come back and unclamp this. Alright, it's been a little over 45 minutes, so let's see what happened. Like a brand new book. Spine did get a little distorted. Maybe that's why my teacher used to set it upright and just clamp it between two books. But see, doesn't fall out. I'd say this is a resounding success. Let's bring this back to FaceTime and finish. All right, guys. So I mean, it's not a perfect solution, but for these older books that are just kind of paperbacks, this works perfect. Or if you have a hardback or paperback school textbook, this would work just fine as well. Now, I think what I would have changed, had I known this slight distortion along the spine would have happened, is I would have used 2 pieces of wood and then clamped the wood. So I would get even pressure this way. But it worked. Almost surprised by that, given how the last glue projects I've done kind of didn't. But yeah, so this book is like brand new, kind of. I mean, the cover's still a little warped from 50 years of reading and people doing this. But there you go. So a little woodworking project even you bibliophiles can do. Please leave a like. Please leave a comment. What did I do wrong? What could I have done better? Did you like it? And don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys next week, hopefully with the Angel of Death costume finished. Take care.